Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. Recently, Indicio put out a look at some of the verifiable data trends that we see progressing through 2023. Today, I'm joined by one of the co-authors of the article and Indicio's VP of Governance, Trevor Butterworth. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Trevor. Could you please start us off with a quick explanation of what we mean when we say verifiable data?
So my pleasure to be here. So one of the great, one of the ways this emerging technology has kind of changed is that we started off with the idea of decentralized identity or self-sovereign identity. But then we realized that really what that meant to companies, to organizations, was the ability to verify data without checking in at the source, without using a third party to store that data so they can cross-check it, and to be able to provide various different privacy-preserving features in the sharing of that data. In a way, and this is a very loose analogy, but in a way what verifiable data is, it's data that can prove its source. And if you trust the source, right, if you trust your bank, and if you get a verifiable credential from your bank and other people trust the bank, then people can act on the data that you share from that credential immediately, right? It's a friction buster. And so that's what we mean by verifiable data. And I think that's where the real revolution is happening.
All right, awesome. So there's a bunch of good points made in the article. One of the ones that really caught my eye was that digital wallets will be taking a backseat to super credentials. So I was wondering if you could unpack that for us. What is a super credential, and are they around? Is this something that will be created this year?
So, there's been a lot of talk about super apps as a kind of app that will manage everything you need to do digitally, in one place on your phone. So we kind of riffing on that to say, actually, well, the real super here is a super credential, and that credential will enable you to duplicate effectively your passport details. It will enable seamless financial transactions, so you're not constantly filling out KYC, your customer information over and over again. So there's been a lot of focus on the infrastructure that allows this to happen. Well, we kind of have the infrastructure now. What will really make the infrastructure, what will make everything sing is being able to do exciting things with verifiable credentials. Again, because a verifiable credential is a container for verifiable data, you can create all sorts of seamless processes. And now, why is that important? Well, there are two trends here, at least two. One is that more and more, as population ages, more and more people are digital first natives, right? They have the expectation that they can do everything. They should be able to do everything on their phone and do it quickly. The evolution of the web and web design and user experience has been incredible when you think about it as a 25-year journey. But you've got to remember, a lot of people don't remember what it was like before then. And they have particular expectations about being able to do things digitally in a fast way, in an easy way, and in a secure and privacy-preserving way. So you've got that as a trend, a demographic trend. Then you have an immediate economic sort of inflection point, which is the challenge that a lot of companies are facing across all sorts of sectors in retaining or finding staff. And the more you can create seamless processes to save your staff doing boring stuff over and over again, right? The same thing over and over again. The better, the less dependent, you're not going to be crushed by a lack of staff. Your staff that you have are going to have a more skilled and rewarding job. And you're going to meet the consumer expectations of the new generation. So, or say new, that's a bit of it's the current, anybody under 40, I would say. So a super credential is, that I think we're going to see this year. We're going to see super credentials transform know your customer processes, which is the identity assurance processes that banks and financial institutions have to do over and over again. I think we're going to see super credentials for managing remote workforce, as like just surveying the changes that are taking place in manufacturing. Lots more digital platforms doing simulation and product design that require teamwork, that require logging in, that require security, for which the current technology for remote working, a VPN, is just simply inadequate. So, there'll be lots of things happening there. And then, of course, the prognostications for travel are tremendously exciting. We're deeply involved in that. Having a digital equivalent of your passport will literally transform how you experience travel. And that's very exciting. So I think this year, I don't think it's any secret that we'll be working on all of these solutions, but we will see real deployment of KYC credentials, employment credentials, which will include passwordless login, and of course, what's known as a digital travel credential, which is a travel credential that follows certain standards set out by the International Civil Aviation Organization. And when people see what they can do with them, then things get really exciting.
All right, absolutely. You touched on a ton of super exciting stuff there. One thing that I kind of picked out was the know your customer credentials.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Indicio has kind of been working with that already in a little bit. Could you tell me a little bit about how you see it evolving in 2023? What do you think is going to happen there?
So knowing your customer is the kind of identity assurance that financial institutions must accomplish in taking on a new customer. It's an expensive process, and it not only is a huge cost, it also is a barrier to many organizations from or following through on what is at basis a really important activity, which is identity assurance. So we see KYC credentials as just dramatically transforming the whole process of proving who you are when you need to make a payment or pay an invoice or become a customer or a bank customer or seek a mortgage. You're not going to have to go, once it's been done, and again, once you trust the credential issuer, the bank, the financial institution, it's a once-off process, and that credential can be reused. It's got all sorts of security features. It's got all sorts of privacy enabling features, and it will make proving who you are, and it will make proving things about you really so much easier in the whole world of finance and payments. And that is super important for dealing with fraud. There are all sorts of configurations in which you could sort of manage chargeback fraud by creating a promissory feature in a digital credential. So there's real opportunity to light a fire under payments disruption, and to make everybody's lives cheaper, more efficient, and safer.
Very cool. That's definitely some exciting stuff to look out for.
Yeah.
So one of the last points that struck me in the article is that there's going to be new models for monetizing your credentials. So I was wondering, can you monetize your credentials today? How do you see that looking?
So it's a two-stage thing. First, we're saving you money, right? The disruption that verifiable data brings is first and foremost a money saver. And it's by removing all the friction points. It's by reducing fraud. And once you do that, then you can start making money. So we see verifiable data as a two-step process. First, it saves you money, then it makes you money. And that becomes really exciting when you think about how you can add all sorts of products and services to seamless processes. So the customer gains new ways of accessing services. in a process with the certainty that they, or with the assurance that they that on both sides of the transaction that you know that the vendor knows who they're transacting with, and also the person knows that the vendor is authentic. We often think about sort of fraud as being one directional, but there are lots of cases where really quite sophisticated faking of financial institutions can hook people in. They're not looking at they don't look at immediately at the web address. They don't check the SSL certificate, and suddenly they think they're dealing with a financial institution. So this is an opportunity for for a person to definitively prove that their bank is their bank. So and it's when you start, because again, remember, this is an interoperable technology. So it means that an ecosystem for travel can also interact with an ecosystem for payments, and that makes building new products and services a lot easier. So I mean, you could think of, and this is a hypothetical. I'm not suggesting that anybody is doing this right now, but you could imagine being able to access foreign currency through your airline. Because it's easy for them to build a service in order to do that. And again, think about solving all the cost problems. There's providing the convenience that people want. And then there's the opportunity when you hit a certain scale to start offering lots of different kinds of services. And much like, we could not have maybe predicted TikTok from a Nokia flip phone, we are not going to be able to adequately predict how this technology at scale will be innovative. Only that when you have an easy to use technology that can be scaled and does lots of things like verification, privacy, security, then I think it's a reasonable expectation to expect pretty amazing things.
Well, yeah, it definitely sounds like there's plenty to look forward to in 2023. Looks like lots of changes on the horizon. That was pretty much our time for today. So thanks you everyone for watching. If you like the content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll continue to bring you some more news and interesting information from around the decentralized identity community. Thank you again to Trevor. I'll go ahead and put the link to this article that we've been discussing in the description. If people do want to learn more about any of the other topics that we've been talking about, though, like the credentials, what we mean by verifiable data, anything like that, where would you suggest that they look?
Well, we have, we churn out a lot of information on our blog, right? I'm a former journalist. I didn't realize how much writing I'd be doing in business. But there's a lot to say, there's a lot to explain, there's a lot to explore. So go to our blog, check out some of the recent articles. There's a lot of good material there. Also our YouTube channel, which has also fantastic range of interviews like this, but also I think I'm correct in saying our meetups, which are sort of deep dives into different verifiable data and decentralized identity topics.